You live and in color. How about that? That's what they used to say about TV. Not a big deal anymore, but that's what they used to say. So just making putting some notes in here. So I just want to thank everybody for joining this evening, and this is my second time for coming on today. I also did a uploaded a video too, if you're interested in that. Of course, you know I'm going for 755 subscribers, trying to hit that this weekend. It's going to be tough unless I can reach some people. I don't know which the best time to catch people on the weekend. So that's the reason why I came on more than once today. I may come on one more time this evening and see if I can reach anyone. It's just a matter of who's out, who's available, right? So, and then I'm getting a lot of people who come back on, and these are people who already follow me. So they already know what I do here. And so I certainly appreciate that. But if you're one of those people, by all means, go ahead and share the broadcast and we'll go from there. So this is going to just be a little short broadcast here, and I'm just going to go through some things here. All right. So this is the April the 4th, 2026 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. And so let me tell you what we have here. We're going to go back to, let's see how far back can I go today. Let's go back to, wow, I can go way back. Let's go back to April 4th, 1895. Man, well over 100 years ago. And the that's the Marion, Indiana Leader newspaper reported that the Page Finch Giants are in Marion. Yeah, the Page Finch Giants out of Adrian, Michigan. They're in Marion. And 7 of the famous team's players have already arrived, and they arrived there this morning. And the other will follow in a special car over the Big Four. So the Big Four evidently was the railroad, they called it at that particular time. They're going to arrive this evening. And Bud Fowler, the legendary Bud Fowler, is the manager of this team at this time in 1895. And Bud says that they're going to come to town. They're going to be training in Marion for 10 days. And they're going to hold their practice at the park south of town. And next Saturday, and this is a Thursday, April the 4th, next Saturday, they will play a game with the local team. And then, of course, the Giants will open their season on April the 9th in Indianapolis. So they're not too far away from Indianapolis. So, so yeah, that's the Page Finch Giants getting started in 1895. So somebody says, well, let's see. I don't know who this is. So hey, if you're interested in baseball, you're in the right place. All right. So let's keep it going, and let's go to 1896. Let's stay with the Page Finch Giants. Okay. So the Page Finch Giants opened their season in 1896 on April the 4th and at Peoria, Illinois, and they lost 8-6 to the Peoria team, which was in the it was a league team there. And the Giants' battery for that game was Cannonball Miller. Cannonball Miller. But you had to be really bring it to have a nickname like Cannonball. Of course, Bill Holland pitched. Bill Holland from Aurora, Illinois. Then Vasco Graham from Chillicothe, Missouri. How about that? Chillicothe, Missouri. I don't know if you ever heard of Chillicothe. Chillicothe, Missouri is known as the home of sliced bread. Believe it or not, when people used to go and they would get a loaf of bread, it would be a loaf. And then a guy in Chillicothe, Missouri came up with the idea of slicing the bread, pre-slicing the bread. So they became the home of sliced bread. How about that? And that is legendary. So Vasco Graham was from that town. He's buried there. Of course, Harry Burns was also a catcher. So they were trying to figure out who was going to make the team. And so anyway, they went down in defeat in Peoria, Illinois. I have presented in Peoria. Actually, if I'm correct, I think Richard Pryor, the great comedian, is from Peoria too. Am I correct on that? Somebody know? Mm, mm. Okay, so got a lot of strange people here today, guys. If you're a baseball fan and you want baseball information and things like that, you're in the right place. Anything else probably doesn't fit very good here. Okay. So let's go to another baseball fact. Let's go to the Topeka Capital Journal, okay? And a lot of guys are now reporting for teams at this particular time of the year. So April 4th, and this is going to be April 4th, 1909. The Topeka Capital Journal reported that Jack Johnson, the crack baseball player who managed the Topeka Giants, and was going to be headed to Kansas City, Kansas, to manage that team, and that is the Kansas City, Kansas Giants, and it happened to be my hometown. So I know much about Jack Johnson's legendary career in Kansas City, Kansas, and many guys that played on that team. And he had certainly an outstanding team. They won 54 consecutive games in 1909 at the start of the season. Can you imagine that? 54 consecutive games. Now, in there, they did have a couple of tie games, but that's not a loss. So it still went for 54 consecutive wins, right? Because it wasn't a loss. And that was Topeka Jack Johnson. Have you ever heard of a baseball team having a record like that? And they took on all comers. And they played in a park, Riverside Park. Now, if you go back to let's see, I'm trying to think. I think it was last Sunday. I went down to where Riverside Park used to be, and that's on my one of my videos. And I just kind of give you a feel of what the area looked like. And it was called Riverside Park, but it was nowhere near a river. I take that back. Maybe the river might have been maybe 3 or 4 miles from there, but it wasn't like the river was that close. But that's what they called a Riverside Park. And of course, that's gone now. And it was a housing project when I grew up, and I was in the Juniper Gardens section of Kansas City, Kansas. And yeah, I went down there actually in that same area when I first started playing baseball. The sponsor of that team, which was Turner House, was in that same area, in the Juniper Gardens area. So let me clear my throat here. So anyway, so yeah, he's coming to Kansas City, Kansas, and that's going to be a great storied franchise that we talk about in black baseball. So I don't know if you know much about the Kansas City, Kansas Giants. So he's headed for there, and then how about we go to Omaha, the Omaha Daily News. All right, they reported, and you probably never heard of this guy, Walter Paris, could be Perry's, Parries. They called him the best known African American baseball player in Nebraska. This is 1910, and he is leaving Tecumseh, that's Tecumseh, Nebraska, and he's headed for Holyoke, Colorado, where he will play with the Holyoke team in 1910. So I'm going to look him up and dig a little deeper into this guy because they said he was the greatest African American baseball player in the state of Nebraska. And that's probably saying something right there. Walter Paris, Parries. All right. Now, so let's jump over to California, see who's leaving California, okay? According to the Fresno Morning Republican, all right, this is April the 4th, 1913. It reported that Chet Bost, B-O-S-T, the local African-American baseball player, and I run across his name quite a bit in Winter League play, and he has been playing Winter League baseball in Fresno, but he left last night, headed for Oakland, where he will remain in the summer months and play with the Stanley Giants. There was a lot of black baseball teams named the Giants, guys. So he's going to play with the Giants, and they're going to open up their season next Sunday. And of course, that was a Friday when he left, over at the Grove Street Park there in Oakland. All right, so let's see. Let me give you two more. Two more. The people coming and going. Then I'm going to be out of here, guys. But the Honolulu Star Bulletin reported that Wilbur Bullet Rogan. Hey, Wilbur Rogan got his start at the same Riverside Park in Kansas City, Kansas. So he's a premier pitcher of the 25th Infantry, and he is signed to play some games with the Los Angeles White Sox, who are considered the leading African American team in the West Coast, on the West Coast, all right? And John Duke Anderson was the owner of that team, and he was really laying down the dollars, trying to make sure that he had the best players. Now, his park there was on 38th Street. Now, if you go back to one of my videos, I also went out to Los Angeles, and I did a live from one of the areas where he had a park. Okay, so he is talking to the Los Angeles newspapers, and so this is some of the things he said. At present, I have three great star pitchers in Mooney, Donaldson, and my latest acquisition, Bullet. Well, he's not Bullet Rogan yet, but he's Wilbur Rogan. All right. So, and he's also mentioned Donaldson, John Donaldson. So John Donaldson came from Glasgow, Missouri, and he went out to the coast. Now he's a great left-hander. And speaking of Donaldson, he said that Donaldson is considered the greatest southpaw in the business. Yeah, he was darn good, boy. I'm telling you, he was lights out around that time, right? This guy was striking out 500 men a summer, 1914, 1915. He pitched so much he hurt his arm, and then he had to make a comeback in the 1920s. And so, anyway, that is John Donaldson, one of the great southpaws. And then, of course, he said Mooney is Anderson's old standby, and he said he possesses a ball called the shoestring ball, which has proven the undoing of many opposing clubs. So evidently, that's a ball that breaks down toward your shoes. And you know what? When I played baseball, I loved it when a pitcher threw a ball and it just kind of stayed on the same plane. The hardest ones to hit were the ones who the ball would go down. So that was a tough one. So I can see why Mooney, would be difficult to hit. All right. So then he goes on and he says that when he's talking about Rogan, he is called one of the greatest African American players in the business. This guy can perform at any position on the diamond or in the outfield, and with his pitching and heavy hitting, those are two of his principal assets. He said, and went on to say, Rogan has a record of pitching 54 consecutive innings without allowing a run. Just imagine that, 54 consecutive innings without allowing a run. And he says that was 2 innings short of Walter Johnson. You probably heard of Walter Johnson. Hey, this guy's from Kansas, around Chanute, Humboldt area. And he had pitched 56 consecutive scoreless innings. So he said he was just too short of that. And so we were talking about some pretty good company when Wilbur Bullet Rogan is joining up. So I will keep you posted on just those few games that Rogan played, because he was on furlough and he left there and he came to Kansas City, which is another interesting story. He came back home. I would tell you this, that years ago, Casey Stengel, the famous manager of the New York Yankees, he thought that he had discovered Rogan and recommend him to J.L. Wilkinson in 1920. Truth of the matter is that J.L. Wilkinson had signed Bullet Rogan to play some games for the All Nations in 1917. So, all right. So just want to let you know that. All right, let's see. Who else we have here? We do have the Mount Carmel item reported that Hilldale will be represented by a fast-colored team. That's Hilldale, Pennsylvania, and that's the Derby Daisies. And they said Ed Bolden, last year's manager, will again have charge of the team. No surprise there. He said they began practice April the 10th, and their first game will be on the 14th. Wow. So you start practice, and then 4 days later, you're playing a game. I'm telling you, boy, they didn't have much time to get into condition. So you had to show up ready to play, or you didn't get a job. That's how tough that was. All right. So guys, that kind of does it for me. I just want to let you know that there's lots of baseball going on, lots of people moving around. Hey, so if you're listening to my broadcast, you're joining, be sure and share this broadcast. And I'm trying to get to 755 on my subscribers. Yeah, maybe by Monday. Who knows? We may do it tomorrow. Who knows? But anyway, I certainly appreciate you joining. So I've had some crazy people come in today, and I don't think that they would be good subscribers because they don't belong to the baseball family. This is a family, guys. This is people who are interested in baseball history, and they want to know more about this game and the history of the game. And so I'm here to give you that kind of information. So, all right, so that kind of does it for me. And I may come back on one more time tonight, and that's a maybe. All right, now I can't guarantee that, but it seems like I get a good nighttime crowd. We call that a night game, right? I have to get my night game on. All right, so thank you guys, and I'll see you real soon. Okay, this is Phil Dixon, and this has been April 4th, 2026 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History.